attention, and legitimacy, appropriateness of their involvement level. This is a useful framework to guide the stakeholder management strategy on a project. Practice creating power grids for business scenarios. This will help in understanding the level of engagement a project manager needs to maintain with various stakeholders. In the next screen, let us discuss the Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix. The Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix allows visualizing the current and desired states of a stakeholder's involvement in the project. The 5 levels of involvement are as unaware, resistant, neutral, supportive, and leading. Unaware is where the stakeholder is not aware of the project or its impact. Resistant is where the stakeholder is aware of the impacts and is resistant to change. Neutral is where the stakeholder is aware of the project and is neither supportive nor in opposition to the project. Supportive is where the stakeholder is aware of the project and its impact and is supportive of the change. Leading is where the stakeholder is aware of the project and impacts and is actively engaged to ensure that the project is successful. Let us now look at the matrix. The table has 1 row per stakeholder identified. You place C in the column which best indicates the current level of engagement for that stakeholder. Then you place D in the column which best indicates the desired state of engagement. This table can be a quick visualization tool that helps understand where work has to be done in the stakeholder management activities. In the next screen, let us discuss the skills required for stakeholder management. Stakeholder management is both an art and a science. Since it involves dealing with people, and people are inherently nonlinear and unpredictable, there is no one size that fits all strategies or tools that will work while managing them. However, a project manager may use a few traits and techniques while managing stakeholders, which are classified as interpersonal skills and managerial skills. A project manager must possess good interpersonal skills. That is, must invest the time and energy to build trust. This involves multiple things, such as establishing a personal rapport, following through on commitments, being punctual, etc. Once the trust is established, it helps in smoothing many difficult bends. Conflict management is an important skill for a project manager. While communicating with stakeholders, the project manager must practice active listening. They must not assume that they have all the answers. Instead, they should spend some time to understand the issues and the stakeholders' points of view. This alone can go a long way in smoothing ruffled feathers and building constructive relationships. Resistance to change is natural. A project manager must know how to convert that into a positive energy in its favor. Managerial skills that may help in accomplishing the project objectives. A project manager must be able to build consensus among the group. While absolute uniformity may not always be possible or desirable, the project manager must use techniques to ensure widespread discussions and arrive at a path that the group can buy into. The project manager must be able to influence people, often without necessarily being in the position of authority. The project manager must be skillful to negotiate agreements. The project manager must be able to understand and modify organizational behavior in order to move the project in a certain direction. Network diagram is extensively used in the project time management knowledge area to plot the activity dependencies. This is a graphical representation of the project activities in the form of a network. There are 2 ways to draw a network diagram. In Precedence Diagramming Model, PDM, or Activity on Node, AON, boxes represent activities and the arrows indicate the dependency. This type of network can have all 4 types of relationships between the activities. In Arrow Diagramming Model, ADM, or Activity on Arrow, AOA, the arrows represent activities. The relationships and sequences can be inferred from the direction of the arrows and linkages between the activities. In such types of network, only finished-to-start relationships can be shown. Such diagrams may need to make use of dummy activities to indicate some dependency between the activities. There may be questions in the PMP exam based on the network diagram, So create and work with the diagram. This will make answering network diagram-based questions easy and fun. In the next screen, let us look at a network diagram. A sample network diagram is shown on the screen. Activities A and C can happen in parallel. B and D require both A and C to complete, whereas E requires both B and D to complete. Activity on arrow network diagram makes use of hammock activities. They are used to show a comprehensive summary activity combining several other activities underneath for control and reporting purposes. In this lesson, we will focus on project scope management. There are 47 processes in project management grouped into 10 knowledge areas and mapped to 5 process groups. In this lesson, we will look at the second knowledge area, that is, project scope management and its processes. Let us begin with the first topic of this lesson, that is, project scope management. Project scope management includes the processes required to ensure that a project comprises all and only the work required to complete the project successfully. The project scope management is concerned about the scope. What is not there in the scope is also clearly identified. In the next screen, let us look at the key activities performed under project scope management. Let us look at a few of the typical activities that happen as part of the project scope management. Constant monitoring is essential to make sure that all the project work is being completed. The gradual, uncontrolled increase in scope of the project is referred as scope creep. It is necessary to define the project scope boundaries and not let people randomly add to the project scope. Gold plating is doing more than what is required as part of the project scope. This has to be avoided in projects. As per the published statistics about projects done globally, less than 40% of projects can be considered successful. Therefore, the focus should be on what is required rather than squandering around with what is not required. 40% might be considered less, but a project is classified as successful only if it meets all its objectives and is done within time and cost budgets. In the next screen, let us understand the differences between product scope and project scope. Project scope management deals with managing both the product scope as well as the project scope. Product scope refers to the features and functions that characterize a product, service, or result. The word product may also include creation of a service. For example, in the banking industry, each of their services is called a product. Likewise, a savings account is one of their products. Mutual fund is another. On the other hand, project scope is the work that needs to be accomplished to deliver the output of the project, which could be a product, service, or result with the specific features and functions. For instance, to deliver a product, you may also need to produce a requirements document or a design document. These are not part of the product scope, but it may very well be part of the project scope. In the next screen, let us discuss a few key terms used in the project scope management. WBS stands for Work Breakdown Structure. It means breaking the project deliverables into smaller and more manageable components called work packages. The last level of work in such subdivision is called work packages, and the whole structure is called WBS. For example, a typical software development project would have various activities, like finalizing requirements, designing the new system, coding, testing, and going live with the new system. Each of these translates into high-level deliverables, which can be further subdivided into smaller activities which are more predictable. WBS Dictionary, like any dictionary, contains the explanation of the terms used in WBS. A typical WBS dictionary has details like the control account, name of the work package, description of the work package, resource assigned, if there are any assumptions or dependencies to complete the work package, the due date to finish the work package, technical dependencies, and so on. WBS Dictionary is useful for the person or group working on the work packages as it further elaborates the decomposed work package. Control account is a level within WBS at which management wishes to exercise control. For example, perform earned value analysis, track performance, etc. In this lesson, we will focus on project integration management. There are 47 processes in project management, grouped into 10 knowledge areas and mapped to 5 process groups. In this lesson, we will look at the first knowledge area, that is, project integration management and its processes. In the next screen, let us understand the concept of project integration management. Project integration management involves unification, consolidation, articulation, and integrative actions that are crucial for successfully completing the project. The project integration management is high-level work that Project Manager does, and it involves managing interdependencies among the other knowledge areas. The other 9 knowledge areas involve detailed work in a specific direction. For example, project cost management deals only with how to manage cost in a project. The project management processes do not happen independently. For example, a new resource added to the project may require changes in cost or schedule or both. In dealing with such situations, the project manager integrates the processes of project management. The need for integration drives much of the communication and the work of the project manager. Let us discuss the key role of project manager, sponsor, and team in the next screen. Project manager, team members, and project sponsors have different roles to play in a project. The project manager is supposed to play multiple roles in the project. The key role is to perform integration. The project manager puts all the pieces of the project together into a cohesive whole. In doing so, the project manager tries to ensure that the project is done faster, cheaper, and utilizes resources optimally while meeting the project objectives. As the project progresses, the team members work on completing the project activities. The role of the project sponsor is to protect project from any unnecessary changes and to ensure that it has the required resources for completion. The project sponsor is the champion for the project within the performing organization, that is, the organization in which the work is being performed. In the next screen, we will cover the project selection methods. An organization can undertake a project under contract with an external organization or take up a project driven by internal business needs. There should be a formal process of selecting project in all organizations to ensure that it is making the best possible use of limited corporate resources. For example, if the organization has an option to take up any one out of the 2 projects, both of which use the same corporate resources, the organization would naturally select the one which is more profitable. There are 2 broad ways to select a project. One way is the benefit measurement method, where one project is compared with other competing projects. Another approach is based on mathematical models, wherein you examine the most optimal selection of projects by trying to optimize a goal. For example, maximize operating profits. Such methods may be called constrained optimization methods. There are different methods under both these categories, and you should be familiar with the names of these methods. Broadly, the benefit measurement methods focus on ascertaining the costs and benefits of undertaking the project. The methods under benefit measurement method include Murder Board, where a panel of experts shoots down a new project idea, peer review, scoring models, economic models, and benefit compared to cost. The constrained optimization methods rely on mathematical modeling techniques to determine the best selection of projects to achieve certain business objectives. The methods of constrained optimization method include linear programming. In reality, you might not have seen these methods to be followed in project selection. Often, personal relationship with the sponsor may be more important than anything else. This is quite normal, and any organization worldwide works this way. However, as a certified project manager, it is important for you to be familiar with more scientific methods of project selection. A typical question on the PMP exam could be, what type of project selection technique is peer review? And the right answer is benefit measurement method. You need to understand the characteristics of various project selection methods to answer scenario-based questions. In the next screen, we will focus on the project selection methods. There are 5 project management processes, which are part of Project Integration Management knowledge area. They are the Develop Project Charter, done in the Initiation Process Group, Develop Project Management Plan, undertaken in the Planning Process Group, Direct and Manage Work Carried Out in the Executing Process Group, Monitor and Control Project and Perform Integrated Change Control, undertaken in the Monitoring and Controlling Process Group, and Close Project or Phase done in the Closing Process Group. Develop Project Charter is an initiating process. A project charter is essentially a document that authorizes a project. Once a project has received a charter, it means that the project manager can start employing the organization's resources for the project activities. Let us look at the key inputs to be considered in preparing the project charter. The first input is the Project Statement of Work. This is created by project sponsor, or the customer describing their needs, project scope, and how the project fits into their strategic goal. If the project is taken up under a contract, the request for proposal, that is, RFP, can be considered as Project Statement of Work. The next input is the business case. This document establishes whether the investment in a project is worth, from a business point of view, the business need for the project and the cost-benefit analysis. It provides important information to the project manager about the goals of the project and the boundaries in terms of the desired results, cost, etc. If the project is being undertaken as part of a contract or agreement, the agreement provides an important input for the project manager that establishes what must be done in the project. The next input to be considered for project charter is enterprise environmental factors. Any project to be executed within the organization has to deal with the organization culture and existing systems. You can consider this as an organization baggage that comes with the project. This is the reason a project being executed in 2 different organizations may be done differently. Another factor to be considered is organizational process assets. This is a broad term and includes all the organizational processes, procedures and policies, corporate knowledge base, and historical project information. Every organization develops a set of processes, procedures, and policies that are based on the best practices learned by the organization over time. The historical information includes past project management plans, risks, lessons learned, etc., of similar projects executed. Now, let us look at the tools and techniques used in this process. The first technique is expert judgment. Expert judgment is an invaluable input to the process of formally authorizing a project, because an expert can provide insights into why a project makes business sense or why it does not. From experience, they may be able to shed light about the validity of the business drivers, feasibility, assumptions, and constraints that need to be considered for the project. Facilitation techniques is another technique used. The chartering process is often a collaborative activity involving many influential stakeholders in an organization. Facilitation techniques help bring all these stakeholders together and engage in fruitful discussions in order to arrive at an informed decision whether to go ahead with a project or not. The only output of this project is the project charter. Let us try to understand what the project charter might contain. The project charter usually contains the high-level project requirement, and it should be created by the project sponsor and handed over to the project manager. The project manager can do the groundwork to prepare the project charter, but it must be signed by the project sponsor or somebody in the performing organization who is higher in authority than the project manager. It is important to point out that a project charter is not a project management plan. The detailed risk, schedule, cost analysis, etc. is part of the project management plan and should be done during the project planning phase, when there is more detail on the availability of the project to do so. The charter should be sufficiently high level to accommodate the minor changes that might arise in the project. In this lesson, we will focus on project management processes. Project Lifecycle addresses the question, what to do to get the work done? It varies industry-wise. For example, let us look at a typical project lifecycle in a software industry. First, you understand what is required and analyze it as part of the requirement analysis phase. Then, as part of the design phase, you figure out the implementation of it and arrive with the approach. Next, you implement the functionality by writing the code as part of the coding phase. The code is then verified to ensure it works right as part of the testing phase. The tested and verified software is then installed at the customer locations as part of the installation phase. After the installation, the system then moves into operations and support phase. The project management process addresses the question, what to do to manage the project? The processes for managing the projects are likely to be the same across industries. For instance, in the develop schedule process, one needs to develop the project schedule, irrespective of the industry or domain you are working. In the next screen, let us understand the project management process groups. The project management processes are divided into 5 process groups. They are Initiating Process Group, Planning Process Group, Executing Process Group, Monitoring and Controlling Process Group, and Closing Process Group. The initiating process happens at the beginning of the project or a phase. The planning, executing, and monitoring and controlling processes go together. Therefore, you plan, execute, and replan based on the execution result. The project closing processes are performed when the project work or a phase within the project is completed. The typical project management process in the closing phase releases resources back to the resource pool so the team members can be assigned to another project. Note the iteration of processes within the phases is dependent on the scale of the projects. Small projects may have only one iteration, whereas bigger projects may have multiple iterations before they enter a new phase. Project management processes are overlapping activities. Let us look at the interaction between these activities in the next screen. Process groups have overlapping activities that occur throughout the project lifecycle. The output of one process group is generally the input to another or a deliverable of the project. For example, Project Management Plan is an output of Planning Process Group and an input to Execution Process Group. Note that production of the plan is not a one-time activity. As the project progresses, the project management plan may get updated as a result of the monitoring and controlling processes. The updated project management plan once again forms an input to the execution process group. In the next screen, we will discuss the project management process group, knowledge area, and project management process mapping. Given on the screen is the list of the 47 project management processes, 10 knowledge areas, and 5 process groups. The table shows how each of them is interrelated. You can see that the project integration management processes can be mapped back to all 5 process groups, while project scope management processes are mapped back to only planning and monitoring process group. Study the table to identify processes under project management and the knowledge area they belong to. All the 47 processes are described in detail in this tutorial. Each knowledge area is covered in detail as a lesson. It also covers how the processes map to process groups to help you understand the big picture. Further, the inputs and outputs of each of these processes, tools and techniques that are used in these processes, and what exactly happens during these processes are also discussed. Earned value technique is an excellent way to track the project progress against the project plan. It is a method of measuring the project performance objectively and comparing it against the project baseline. Results from an earned value analysis indicate deviation of the project from cost and schedule baselines. Baseline is the initial approved value along with approved changes. Therefore, schedule baseline is the first approved project schedule along with approved changes. There are various terms used in earned value technique. Planned value is the authorized budget assigned to the scheduled work. Earned value is the work performed in terms of budget authorized for that work. Actual cost is the cost incurred in work performed. Budget at completion is the budgeted amount for the total work. Estimate at completion is the expected total cost for the project. Estimate to complete is the expected cost to finish all the remaining project work. Variance at completion is the projected budget surplus or deficit at the end of the project. All the parameters displayed on the screen are measured in terms of cost. You may come across business scenario-based questions on earned value management in the PMP exam, so ensure that you develop a clear understanding of this topic. Let us look at an example of a planned value in the next screen. Planned value is the estimated value of the work planned. This value is measured in terms of currency, say dollar. If the planned value is $340, then the work planned is worth $340. How do you calculate earned value? The solution is add the budget allocated to each of the activities that have been completed at the point of time. The resulting value is the earned value. In the next screen, let us look at the formula used to calculate earned value. In cost variance, negative means the project is over budget. Positive means the project is under budget. Similarly, in schedule variance, negative means the project is behind schedule, whereas positive means the project is ahead of schedule. The value of the next two parameters, Cost Performance Index, CPI, and Schedule Performance Index, SPI, values vary between 0 and 1. For example, a CPI of 0.8 implies that 80 cents of work is obtained for every dollar spent in the project. Similarly, if SPI is 0.9, it implies that project is progressing at only 90% of the speed originally planned. The next parameter is Estimate at Completion, or EAC. There are different ways of calculating the EAC value. The method used depends on how the cost and schedule variances are expected to play for the rest of the project. BAC by CPI is used if you expect that the current cost performance will continue until the end of the project. AC plus BAC minus EV is used if you expect that the rest of the project will be managed at the budgeted rate. AC plus BAC minus EV by the product of CPI and SPI is used if you want to factor in the impact of the cost as well as schedule variances. AC plus ETC is used if you want to re-evaluate the project based on a forecast value for the estimated cost of the remainder of the project. The next parameter is Estimate to Complete, or ETC, which is the cost of project from this point to the end. This is calculated by subtracting the actual cost from the estimate at completion. In addition, variance at completion can be calculated by subtracting the estimate at completion from the budget at completion. Variance at completion is the cost estimation whether it is over or under budget. Another parameter is the To Complete Performance Index, or TCPI. This is the cost performance needed to achieve a desired outcome. For example, if the project needs to be managed to the original budget, BAC, then TCPI, that is, the CPI that must be maintained for the rest of the project, is calculated as BAC minus EV by BAC minus AC. Similarly, if it has to be managed within a revised target, say EAC, then TCPI is calculated as BAC minus EV by EAC minus AC. Before the start of the PMP exam, please make a note of the formulas of earned value technique. In the next screen, let us look into a business scenario to understand this concept better. After reading the problem statement, click the Solution button to look at a possible answer. Let us take the example of a software development project. There are 4 phases, and each phase takes a month to complete and is expected to cost $10,000. The phases are planned to be completed one after the other. The status of the project at the end of the month 3 is summarized in the table. Requirements definition is completed and actual spending on this is $10,000. Architecture and design is done and actual spending on this is $12,000. Development and unit testing is only 50% done, though it was supposed to be completed by 3rd month. It has cost $9,000 until date. System testing and go live has not yet started. Note, S indicates start time, F indicates finish time, and PF indicates that it is partly finished at the end of the month. Based on the above information, calculate the CV, SV, CPI, and SPI of the project. Let us look at a solution in the next screen. Before we end this lesson, let us also look at a few definitions that might be useful for your PMP examination. Law of diminishing return. This means the more you put into something, the less you get out of it. For example, doubling the number of resources working on a project will not necessarily have the time. Working capital. The amount of money the company has to invest on the project and the day-to-day company operations. Funding limit reconciliation. The process of comparing the planned expenditure in a given period with the available funding for that period. Large assets purchased by the company lose value over time. This is called depreciation. There are 2 forms of depreciation, straight line and accelerated. Same amount of depreciation is taken every year. For instance, a car with a price tag of $10,000 and useful life of 10 years is depreciated $1,000 per year. At the end of the 10th year, the value of the car is considered 0 for all accounting purposes. Accelerated depreciation depreciates faster than the straight-line depreciation. For instance, a car with a price tag of $10,000 depreciates $3,000 the first year, $1,500 the next year, $1,000 the 3rd year, and so on. Critical path is defined as the longest duration path through a network diagram, which determines the shortest time to complete the project. Float can be considered as a buffer time available to complete an activity. Float is calculated once the network diagram is ready. It is also called as slack. There are 3 kinds of float. The first being the total float, which is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying the project end date or an intermediary milestone. The second type of float is free float, which is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying the early start date of its successor or successors' activities. The last type is independent float, which is the amount of time an activity can be delayed if all the predecessors finish at their latest finish dates and you want to start all the immediate successors at their earliest start dates. The slack of the activities on the critical path is 0, because there is no scope to delay activities on the critical path. Critical path actually represents the project duration. Delaying activities on the critical path is as good as delaying the project duration. Concept-based questions on critical path can be expected in the exam, so it is essential to have a clear understanding of the concept. In the next screen, let us learn how to calculate float. Let us look at an example for critical path. There are 5 activities in this project and 2 paths in the network diagram. Start, 1, 2, 4, 5, end is one path, and start, 1, 3, 5, end is the second path. Since the duration of the path start 1, 2, 4, 5, end is 18 days, which is more than the duration of the path start 1, 3, 5, end, the critical path of the project is start 1, 2, 4, 5, end. Let us take Activity 3 as an example. First, calculate the early start and early finish dates. Activity 3 can start only after Activity 1. Since the early finish of Activity 1 is 3, it becomes the early start of Activity 3. Activity 3 cannot start earlier than 3 because Activity 1 can be completed only by then. Therefore, early start of Activity 3 is 3, since the duration of the activity is 4 days. The early finish of Activity 3 is 3 plus 4 equals 7 days. Now, let us calculate the late start and late finish of Activity 3. Late start of Activity 5 is 14 days. The Activity 3 happens just before Activity 5, so the late finish of Activity 3 is 14 days. To calculate the late start, you can subtract the duration from late finish. Therefore, the late start of Activity 3 is 14 minus 4 equals 10. In the next screen, let us focus on schedule compression.
Hi, welcome to Project Management Tools tutorial from Simplilearn. I am CMR Chandra MR, a certified project management professional. As part of this tutorial, we are going to look at about project management tools, essential features of project management tools, top 10 project management tools currently used in the industry. So what is project management tools? Why should we use project management tools while doing project management? So project management tools help to keep a streamlining flow in project management processes. The tools help the team or an individual to carry out the steps of project management in an effective and efficient manner. So project management tools, features and functionalities. So basically a project management tool should have minimum fulfilling these features and functionality. They should be simple to use, customizable, they should have API for integration, it should help in collaboration, it should help in risk analysis and real-time reporting. When we say simple to use, the project management tools need to be suitable for every project we do. One needs to find a tool that will have a pleasant interface and increase work productivity. The project management tool must be easy to configure according to the organization needs. Every project management approach, every project management templates, every artifact needs tailoring and adaptation before adopting as part of the practice. There are business patterns that change every day, so having customizable tool is an added advantage. API or application programming interface enables the sharing of data and application between devices. The tools with API integration allow seamless connectivity amongst the team. The project management tools must allow for collaboration so that whole team can work together. Collaboration not only makes the task easier but also increases the productivity of the project. Risk analysis helps to identify, analyze and respond to the risk quickly and efficiently. It needs to capture all the details of the risks, their impacts, the probability of occurrence of the risk and risk responses and tracking them throughout the project lifecycle. The real-time reporting enables the access of data at different locations of the project management. One can assess or access data at any time about the project's current status. This will help in having a real-time update about the project status to the stakeholders of the project. The top 10 project management tools what we have today in the market are Monday.com, Rick, Jira Software, Trello, Asana, Teamwork, MeisterTask, Basecamp, Oracle's Primavera and Microsoft Project Management Tool. So let us look at these one by one. So Monday.com was released during the year 2012 and it is known for providing features to enable flexible planning and monitoring capabilities. The website where you can find Monday.com access the tool is www.monday.com. So this tool is used by more than 90,000 teams across the globe. Monday.com features and functionality includes it is easy for collaboration, highly customizable, excellent for analytics, integration with Dropbox, Google Drive and Pipedrive is possible. So pricing, the basic version is $25 on monthly basis, so which will provide you 5 GB storage 1 board per dashboard, and it is billed annually. The standard package includes 5 GB storage, 3 boards per dashboard, and it is $39 per month, which is billed annually. Professional includes unlimited storage, 10 boards per dashboard, and it costs $59 per month, and it is billed annually. Monday.com is used by the following customers, organizations of Monday.com, that is Carlsberg, Discovery Channel, Adidas, Tom, Philips, etc. RIC is another project management tool which was released in 2006. So this application provides its user with robust features and allows them to collaborate with each other. The website to access the tool is www.ric.com, and this is used by over 18,000 organizations across the globe. The features of RIC includes it has collaborative editing, flexible workflow, real-time reporting, and efficient work management. The pricing includes 0 to 5 users. It has basic integrations and which is free, whereas professional includes $9.8 per user per month, which has a slabs of 5, 10 and 15 users, and RIC proof free trial. Business version has 5 to 200 users and RIC proof free trial, whereas $24.80 per user per month. The companies which uses the RIC tools are Airbnb, L'Oreal, TeamViewer, Tiffany & Co, etc. Now let us look at Jira software. Jira software was released during year 2002. It is a software development tool used by agile teams, famous for its bug tracking system. The website to access this tool is www.atlassian.com/software/Jira, used by over 65,000 customers. The features of Jira software includes agile reporting, rich toolkit for developers, bug tracking, mobile applications. So the pricing of Jira software is as follows. So for forever 2 GB storage and community support, which cost $0, whereas standard is around $7 per user per month, which includes 250 GB storage and 9 to 5 standard support. Premium is $14 per user per month, unlimited storage, and has 24/7 premium support. Jira software is used by the organizations that is Hitachi, Visa, Dropbox, Nestle, Domino's, Coca-Cola, Samsung, etc. Now let us look at the tool Trello. So this application was released in 2011. It is known for providing flexibility in organizing and prioritizing the tasks with the help of its boards, lists and cards. Website to access the tool is www.trello.com, used by over 50 million people. The features of Trello includes smooth editing, easy file uploads from Dropbox or Google Drive, high security standards, and easy data searching techniques. So the pricing includes it is free for 10 MB per attachment and 10 team boards. Business class includes 250 MB attachment, unlimited team boards, and it costs $9.99 per user per month annually. Enterprise version provides 250 MB per attachment, unlimited team boards, and costs around $20.83 per 100 users per month. The companies who use Trello are Google, Adobe, PayPal, UNICEF, the New York Times, etc. Now let us look at Asana. The Asana tool was released during 2008. It is an high-quality task management software that makes the tracking of tasks easy across the project management. The website to access this tool is www.asana.com, used by over 140,000 companies. The features includes incredible task management, Gantt charts, privacy controls, easy progress tracking. The pricing includes the basic model Asana provides 0 to 15 people, beginners in the project management. So premium includes custom fields, priority support, where the pricing is $10.99 per user per month annually. The business version includes advanced integration, priority support, and it costs $24.99 per 100 users per month. The companies which uses Asana are Deloitte, Vodafone, Red Bull, Uber, Salesforce, NASA, etc. Let us look at Teamwork tool. Teamwork was released during year 2007. It is a cloud-based project management solution that helps in managing group activities and establishing flexible communication. The website to access this tool is www.teamwork.com, used by over 370,000 organizations. The features of Teamwork includes high-quality CRM, help desk software, risk register, and easy time tracking. The pricing includes 0 to 5 users and 100 MB file space is provided free of cost, whereas Pro version includes 5 to 50 users, 100 GB file spaces, which cost $9 per user per month. Premium version costs around $15 per user per month, which includes 5 to 100 users and 250 GB file space. The organizations who use Teamwork are Forbes, eBay, Microsoft Studios, HP, PayPal, Disney, Honda. Now let us look at the tool Meister Task. So this tool was released during year 2015 and it is known for providing automated and streamlined workflows to make the overall processes more productive. The website to access this is www.mastertask.com, used by over 2 million users. The features of this tool includes it is simple to use, seamless workflow, Gantt charts, flexible project boards. The pricing it is $0 per month up to 3 projects and unlimited project members. The Pro version includes unlimited projects, unlimited integrations, which costs around $8.25 per user per month, whereas Business costs $20.75 per user per month, which has security restrictions, priority email, and phone support. The organization who use the tool are Virgin, Optics Consulting, and Datan Succort's Expert.d, etc. Basecamp. The Basecamp tool was released during the year 1999. It is a real-time communication tool that allows users to keep track of priorities and actionable tasks. The website to access this tool is www.basecamp.com, used by over 3 million users. The features of Basecamp includes easy to use, various third-party integrations, daily backups, and comprehensive project calendar. The personal version is free and 0 to 20 users and 1 GB store space is provided. In business version it is $99 per month for unlimited users having 500 GB storage space. The companies who use Basecamp is ThoughtPod, Harvest, WLB, Groupon, etc. Oracle Primavera. So this tool was released during the year 1983, which is acquired by Oracle Corporation in the year 2008. Primavera helps project manager to handle a vast number of tasks with the help of its unlimited resources and target plans. Website to access this tool is www.primavera.com, which is used by over 7,143 companies. So features of Primavera includes creation of WBS, the work breakdown structure, issues and risk recording, supports large number of activities, and easy collaboration with project users. The Enterprise Project Portfolio Management version costs around $2750 per user, which improves planning and execution. Professional Project Management version is USD 2500 per user, handles large-scale, highly sophisticated projects. So Oracle Primavera Contract Management version module costs around USD 2000 per user, keeps construction projects on schedule and on budget. So the companies which use Primavera are Burns, McDonald's, Pond, Arcadis, etc. Microsoft Project. So Microsoft Project Management tool was used during the year 1984. So this tool allows users to develop a schedule, assign resources, track progress, and manage budgets all through the project. The website to access this tool is www.office.microsoft.com/project. The features of Microsoft Project includes simple to use, effective monitoring, easy communication, enhanced decision making. So this is a cloud-based solution and the pricing is Project Plan 1 costs around $10 per user per month on an annual commitment. Managing projects via web browser is the feature. Project Plan 3, which costs around $30 per user per month with annual commitment, which is fully updated project desktop application. Project Plan 5, which costs around $55 per user per month with annual commitment. Evaluating project ideas from anywhere in the organization is possible through this. Project Standard 2019 version costs around $620 per PC per user for those who don't need collaboration tools and advanced features. Project Professional version 2019 costs around $1,030 per PC per user, syncing with Project Online and Project Server. The organization which uses Microsoft projects are Comptel, Airbus, Intel, Volvo, Xerox, etc.
Hey guys, welcome to this Trello tutorial by Simply Learn. So without further ado, let's get started with what exactly is Trello. So Trello is a simple and easy to use collaboration tool that can enable you to organize projects and everything related to it into boards. With Trello, you can find all kinds of information, like what's being worked on, who's working on what, and what progress the project is making. Now we'll learn about that in a little bit while we're talking about the Trello demo. Now let's talk about the advantages of Trello. Now first off, Trello can be used immediately after signing up. So Trello offers you a free sign up, after which you get access to almost all of Trello's features. Now it does have a premium service, but most of Trello's important features are available in the free account. Secondly, it follows the Kanban system. So the Kanban system is a popular methodology that can be used to achieve lean. So with Trello, you can also achieve lean. Now Trello also has a very popular mobile application which also has the same features as the interface that you see on the desktop. It's very user friendly. Now the fourth advantage is that all project related items can be seen on one page, which means everything you need about the project is available in one place. Next, adding new members, creating issues, and assigning them are very easy with the help of Trello. Now that we had a look at all the advantages that are provided by Trello, let's have a look at a live demo. So first off, let's go to Trello.com. So here you can see two options to log in or sign up. So first of all, if you've never used the website before, go to sign up. So here you can enter your email, or you can go through Google or Hotmail or Outlook. So it's very simple. I already have an account, so I'll just log in. Right, so I'm just going to log in. So if you're using Trello for the first time, this is what it would look like. So here you have personal boards, templates, home, and so on. So let's go one by one. Firstly, the most important thing that you need to know about is boards, which is right here. So let's assume you're using this for a team, which means that you need people to share the board along with. So first of all, let's create a team. So here I'm just going to name a company called Company Co. Say we do engineering IT. Let's write a brief team description and continue. So here, say I have 4 members. So I have Bob. I'm adding them here. So depending on what your team is like, you can add those team members. So this is important so that you can connect with them while you're on the board. So this is company.com. So we'll just add them. So the team members that you're going to invite will get an invite email very soon, as soon as you're done by clicking the invite to team button. I'll also add Bill, who also works at my company. And there's technician 1. And there's technician 1 who works at company.com. We'll add anybody who's required later. So invite to team. And there you go, there's some details here about the team and all that. Let's go back to home. And now let's create a new board under Company Co. So the difference here is that for personal boards is that, like the name suggests, it's personal. You can also add the team if you want later on, but here you have the option for creating a team board. So I'll show you how you can create a team board from personal board. So if you go to create board, here you can show as, this is by default selected as no team because it's under personal. Change it to company and you can write business, anything else like that. And then you create a board. And there you go, the board has been set up. So now, first things first, it's that you can make this team visible, which is either only board members can see it, or since it's a small team, the entire team can see it. So it's up to you how you want it. There's the public option, which everyone can see, which I don't think is necessary, but if you feel like it, you can do that too. First of all, you can even write a description of the board, which is what you want to achieve with this board. For example, this is business or sales or something like that. You can change the background into something more colorful or less colorful, like this. And then there's search cards, which we haven't added anything so far, so there's nothing to search. There's stickers, which again is, I feel, unnecessary at the moment. You can also see something called Butler. So based on your usage or how you're using Trello, Butler can provide you suggestions like what you can add here. Like you can see here, the tips haven't been added so far because we haven't used Trello so far. So based on your usage, it'll give you suggestions. Now let's go back. So here you see power-ups. So power-ups are basically additional features that you can add to your board. So there are features that are connected to a number of different fields. There's analytics, automation, utilities, tools, and so on. So as a free user, you get access to one power-up, but still we don't have to use it so far because we don't have anything on our board. But based on your requirement, you can go through these power-ups and decide on one of them. So now let's get back to business or our board. So first you can see add a list. So this basically refers to the different processes that you want to follow in this board. So first of all, we'll add a list title. I'm going to add to do. That's the first list. Then there's in progress, on hold, and completed. So here we have 4 lists which represent the processes in this business. So if you want, you can even add another list depending on your requirement. So in these lists, there are things called cards, so which are like subtopics. So first of all, let's add a very simple title. For example, deliver product company A. This is again very simple. Deliver product to company B. Like this, so on and so forth if you want it. So here, this is a card. So this card can be moved from each stage to another as it progresses. So this is in the to-do stage since we've not started with anything. So once you click on a card, so this pop-up shows up. So here you can add a description like conversed with company A, ready to go. Just some details that you want to add. So you save. Now one thing you can see, add to card. So there are a number of different things you can add to this card. So members, now I have 4 team members. I can add Bob here. I want Bob in on this. I want Bob to see the activities as it happens. I want Bill to also see as things proceed. Right, so the Bob and Bill are in on this right now. Next you have labels. So depending on what you want to use this for example, I want to use this to represent that it's important or immediate. Put it as red, save. So I can select this label to indicate that this is now very important. So depending on your company's, style, or depending on your requirements, you can add the labels. Then you have a checklist. So different steps can be focused on with this checklist. For example, I'm just going to write steps. So we're delivering a product, for example. So let's just use steps. Requirement gathering. I'm just going to write the software lifecycle steps: analysis, design, implementation, testing, deployment, and maintenance. So yeah, we have all the steps. So one thing is that once each of these steps are done, you tick it, so a percentage increases. So until you're done with 100%, you can just keep ticking. Finally, it will show 100% and you're done. So another thing is a due date. So this is basically by when you want it completed. So this is basically a reminder that we need to complete it or before a particular date is done. So I'm not adding a due date as of now, but that's up to you. Next, you have something called attachment. So say for example, all your requirements have been gathered into one PDF. So where all the requirements that are required by the company are shown in that PDF. You can attach it here so that everyone has access to it. Then a cover can also be added to your card, which is just basically beautifying it. So we can find one. So for example, this. And there you go. There's a pretty good looking cover here. Now we have all the information. So let's get started. So to officially mark the beginning of the project, we'll just go and put this to in progress. So at the same time, you can do the same thing with this card as well about company B. So let's just focus on company A now. So say the steps have already started, requirement gathering is done, designing is done, implementation is also done. So depending on the person, the technician, so the technician could respond that, we've already started. So before that, we need to add the technician. He's already on this, but if you had to add him, you search for members and you have board members who's already in the board. You can add the technician. Now you can also, add activity details like technician 1. How's it going? How's the process going? Now he could respond here with it's fine. So each time one of us, adds the other or says something to the other, they get notifications so that, they get to respond as well. They get to know what's happening. Now say for example, the technician is not able to complete the project or complete his work. So it's put on hold. So here I could say, so testing isn't done. So you can say tech, why the delay or what's going on? And he would give an appropriate response. And once he's ready, he can finish the testing and put it back to in progress. Then eventually all of it is done, deployment and maintenance. So here you have an option to hide complete items. That's up to you. You can also delete them if you feel like it. You can close this. And then after everything is done and you feel that everything of the process is done, you can put it on completed. So if this is a recurring process, you can, make a copy of this, which you can find by doing this copy, or you could just put this on archive, indicating that it's done. You can even get it back by just going to more, archived items, and then there you have it. You can send it back to board. That's up to you. And there you go. That's most of everything you need to know about Trello. One another thing is that right now you can only add 10 boards on this feed as of now because you're using a free membership. Also, depending on the intensity or the difficulty of the board, you can also have different boards for different projects. I've just used one for multiple projects, but it's entirely possible for you to have one board per project. You can also, favorite this, indicating that this is a very important one that you need to focus on every day. So this is where you get all the notifications that X is changed. There you go. All kinds of responses, everything that you need is available on this home screen, which is basically like a home feed. You can also find templates depending on your requirement. So you can choose a template from a wide variety of options. So I'm just going to show you the Kanban template. So here you have details about the template. You have an example of what the template looks like and so on. And there you go. That's everything you need to know about Trello.
In this session, we will be talking about Agile project management and several other things related to it. Before we begin, let's have a look at all the topics we will be covering today. First, we will see the basics of Agile project management. Then, we will check the relevance and principles of Agile project management. We will then see necessary steps to implement Agile methodology. Along with that, we shall also see different frameworks involved in the process. And finally, we shall see some companies that use Agile project management. So without any further ado, let's get started with what is Agile project management. Agile project management, as the name suggests, is a flexible approach to building a project. In Agile project management, the project is broken down into several stages or sprints. Agile does not work on the principle of delivering the final product at the end of the project. It works on delivering sections of a project or mini projects. The process of project management in the case of Agile is Agile based. So there won't be any central control of project manager as it was there in the traditional way of working. Before we move forward, let's have a look at the Agile development cycle. Agile methodologies consist of several small cycles or sprints. At the end of each stage, we get a mini project. There's a product backlog that explains new features, changes in the existing features, and several other improvements in the project. Then we have a sprint backlog, which has a list of tasks that are to be completed during each sprint. The sprint consists of planning, designing, execution, testing, and deployment stages. And at the end of each sprint, a mini project is delivered. With every sprint, new features are added to the product, which plays a significant role in the overall project growth. After all the sprints and early validation in the development, the final deliverable has a fewer chances of failure. Let's now have a look at some reasons why industries have started moving towards Agile project management. The first reason is high product quality. When we talk about high product quality, we refer to the build of the product as per stakeholders' demands. Testing is performed at short intervals of time wherever needed to ensure high quality of the product. Then another reason is customer satisfaction. Whatever is done in the project is known by the customer. The deliveries don't take longer durations as they used to take in the case of traditional ways. The changes may be provided by the customer in the execution phase of the project. Third reason is reduced risk. Since the project is divided into sprints, so if the risk affects one sprint, it doesn't mean whole of the project will be at risk. The process of risk analysis continues to take place with all the other processes. Another significant reason for Agile project management is better and faster return on investment. The project is now developed in several sprints and each sprint has its own version. Therefore, the project becomes market ready after a few sprints only. Since the projects can now be released with ease and in shorter duration, this helps the organization to stay ahead in competition with respect to other organizations which have still not moved to Agile methodology. Now we shall check the principles of Agile project management. There are 10 principles for successful Agile project management. The first principle is the satisfaction of the customer by delivering the project fast and with least number of errors. The next principle refers to decreasing the amount of time between the phase of planning and delivery. The third principle states that the team of managers and developers work together and increase the productivity of their work. The next principle states that the changes requested by the stakeholders can be taken into consideration and worked upon during the development phase as well. The fifth principle pays attention to the factor of coordination among the team members. Then the sixth principle refers to the process of monitoring and tracking the progress of the project at the end of each sprint and making amendments wherever needed. Moving on, the next principle states that there must be a feeling of trust and support towards the team to complete the project's objectives. The next principle emphasizes on face-to-face conversations with the development team. The face-to-face conversation helps in both solving problems and easy knowledge sharing. Then the ninth principle emphasizes on finding solutions and maximizing the amount of work done with simplicity. This ensures timely completion of tasks by all the team members. The last principle states that Scrum tools like Monday.com or Zoho Sprints must be used to simplify the complicated codes, which further helps in saving time. We shall now see the steps in Agile project management. The goal of Agile methodology is to produce shorter development life cycles and more frequent product releases than traditional waterfall project management. So we will now check 6 steps in Agile project methodology. The first step in the process is project planning. Project planning includes feasibility study, development of scope, breaking the project into executable tasks or sprints, and then estimating the amount of time needed to complete those sprints. The second step is the step of roadmap creation. A roadmap is a plan of action that shows how a project shall evolve over time. A list of all the features that the final product should have is created, and the steps to achieve those features are taken. The next important step is release planning. Since we are doing the project keeping in mind the agile project methodology, the project will complete in sprints. That means there will be the release of features at the end of each cycle. And unlike the traditional waterfall model, the development cycles will be smaller. The fourth step in agile project management is sprint planning. The sprints are made keeping in mind what all is to be accomplished in that particular step. At the beginning of each sprint, the goal of that sprint is decided and steps to achieve that goal are taken. The next step in the process emphasizes on daily meetings. There are short meetings every day to discuss if the team was able to finish the task for each sprint and check if there are any amendments that are required. Each team member talks about what they achieved in the last sprint and what are they going to work on in the next sprint. The last step is the step of sprint review and retrospective. There are 2 meetings after each sprint. First meeting is for the sprint review. This meeting is with the stakeholders to show them the finished product. This helps both sides to build a relationship and discuss if there are any issues in the end product. The second meeting is for having a sprint retrospective. This meeting involves the stakeholders to discuss what went well and what went wrong during the sprint. Sprint retrospective takes place after the sprint review and before the next sprint planning. Now when we know the steps needed for agile project methodology, we must understand some agile project management frameworks. There are several frameworks available today. Here, we will be discussing some of the most popular frameworks. The first framework we will discuss is the Kanban framework. Kanban framework is a well-known framework for implementing agile software development. In the case of Kanban framework, work items are represented on the Kanban board, which helps all the team members to see the state of every piece of work at any time. Kanban board not only helps in visualizing the work, but also optimizing the workflow among the team. The next framework we will discuss today is the Scrum framework. Scrum framework is a popular framework for managing complex knowledge work like in the field of research and advanced technologies. Scrum is a simple framework that helps teams work together and learn through their experiences gained while working on a problem. The third framework we will see today is the hybrid framework. The hybrid framework is a combination of agile methodology and non-agile methodology. In the case of a hybrid framework, planning is done using the traditional way of project management, while the execution and delivery is done using the agile methodology. Since the hybrid is a combination of the two, it handles the requirement changes and delivers the product in different stages. The fourth and the last framework we will see is the lean framework. The lean framework works on the principle of providing maximum customer value and creating zero waste. It focuses on optimizing the flow of products all through the value stream. This helps in eliminating waste all through the process and create processes that requires less human efforts. This also simplifies the process of information management and makes it more accurate. Finally, let's have a look at some companies that have opted for agile project management. Today, around 22% of the organizations worldwide have all their teams working on the principle of agile project methodology. Let's have a look at some of the most prominent companies in the world that use agile project management. In the list, we have IBM, Cisco, AT&T, Microsoft, Philips, and Samsung.
Welcome to Simplilearn's PMP 6th edition training tutorial. I am CMR, Chandra MR, a certified project management professional, Prince 2 practitioner, ITL expert, ITL 4 managing professional, COBIT 5 and DevOps. Today we are going to look at understanding what is the PMP certification, what is PMBOK, eligibility criteria to appear in PMP examination, the project management framework, the project management process groups, knowledge areas and processes. So now imagining the world where you have a project being done and you are the project manager, and how best a project can be conducted. So to make a project successful, it is required to follow a best practice. So if you have a certification, just imagine having a certification that lets the world know that you know what you are doing in project management. So PMP certification gives you all. So what is PMP certification? So the PMP, the Project Management Professional Certification, is a certification of PMI, the Project Management Institute, which is at USA, so is an internationally recognized credential for project managers. See, the certification indicates that the certified professional has a sufficient experience, education, skills and competency. Reason being, before going for PMP certification, it asks for specific prerequisites which involves experience in project management as well as formal education of project management and demonstrated skills. So that being a prerequisite for project management professional certifications, it is very essential that one need to understand what it takes to become eligible for PMP examination. So that we will go through in the subsequent slides. So the moment one has the PMP certification, that itself indicates the prerequisites to take up a PMP certification is accomplished already before going for certification, and then the individual will go for a certification and become certified professional. So that way it concludes, it also indicates that person who holds the PMP certification has sufficient experience, education, skills and competency. Moreover, there are more than 100,000 PMP certification holders across the globe. So PMP certified individuals earn 25% more than non-certified individuals. So now PMP certification also has the advantages which are given here, like helps the project manager to practice the project management better, create the results better, demonstrate the project management capability better. So this also helps project manager to show the commitment towards the project management profession, and having PMP certification provides the recognition across the globe, which helps in getting better salary compared with people, the professionals who are not certified, and also helps in increasing the network, project management network, who actually practices project management, the fellow practice project managers who are practicing the project management. So there are certain vocabularies, jargons which are used specifically while doing the project management. PMP helps to understand those. So now let us look at what does the official guide which is used in PMP that can help to become a project management professionals. So that is PMBOK, which is referred as Project Management Body of Knowledge, or PMBOK, which is the collection of processes, best practices, terminologies and guidelines accepted as standards within the industry. So the latest edition of this is 6th edition, which was released in 2017. The first edition of PMBOK guide was published in 1996, and the 6th edition, as I mentioned, was released in 2017, and the exam format was revised from 26th March 2018. So PMBOK guide will become the basic reference to appear in the PMP examination. So one needs to go through the training based on PMBOK guidelines, so that will help them to pass the examination easily. So eligibility criteria for appearing for PMP certification examinations. So you can have two types of eligibilities which PMI defines. So option 1 includes someone who has secondary degree should have 7,500 hours of leading and directing project. That is an experience, what it is asking, as a prerequisite before the professional go for examination. Plus 35 hours of project management education formally from a registered education provider like Simplilearn. Option 2, someone who has 4-year degree, project management experience, leading and directing project. This experience will be 4,500 hours. Whereas as we saw in option 1, in option 2, 35 hours of project management education is required, and that is from registered education provider like Simplilearn, as I mentioned earlier. So this training, which is conducted by registered education provider, will have their trainings aligned with PMBOK, the latest edition. So Simplilearn enables people to learn what are the topics in PMP framework, plus make the professionals ready to appear the examination and become successful. The project management framework, which is defined in PMBOK, includes 5 process groups, 10 knowledge areas and 49 processes. So when we say 5 process groups, this indicates the way the project flows, how each of these process groups are connected, while project happens in the project life cycle. Whereas 10 knowledge areas are the one which needs to be looked up to, demonstrated up to, considered while doing the project management. And the 49 processes distributed across 5 process groups and 10 knowledge areas has the activities, the objectives, the inputs, outputs, tools and techniques clearly defined so that those can be applied while doing the project management. So those are aligned the way it is shown in the table. So 5 process group, that is initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and control and closing. These are the process groups. Whereas 10 knowledge areas includes project integration management, project scope management, project schedule management, project cost management, project quality management, project resource management, project communication management, project risk management, project procurement management, and project stakeholder management. So each of these knowledge areas and process groups are aligned in such a way where the processes aligned with a specific process group and knowledge area can be demonstrated accordingly. If you look at a process which goes from initiating to planning, planning to executing, and then monitoring and control. While you do monitoring and control, if there is anything found as a deviation, it may come back to planning or executing for necessary corrections. Once the necessary corrections happens, again it moves to monitoring and control to check whether it is completely done as expected or not. If it is confirmed everything is done as per the requirements defined, then it moves to closing. This is how the project flows in the project life cycle. Whereas all the 10 knowledge areas happens in parallel. So now if you look at initiating process group, you can see 2 processes, that is develop project charter and identify stakeholders. So develop project charter and identify stakeholders basically defines project charter required for the project as well as initial identified stakeholders who are required to move forward in the project. Similarly, if you look at planning process group, you have 24 processes which are distributed across all the 10 knowledge areas. So these processes creates a plan for the project which involves scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline, quality management approach, then resource management approach. Means the plan, I mean to say. When I say approach, I am speaking about the plan. Similarly, communication management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, stakeholder management plan, and all of these will get consolidated into project management plan in the integration management knowledge area. Once this plan is done and approved, then it moves for execution. All that project manager do during execution is directing and managing project work and managing the project knowledge. At the same time, project manager would take responsibility of managing quality, acquiring resources, developing team, managing team, then communications which are planned as per the communication management plan. Communication should happen during execution. So similarly, implementation of risk responses defined while doing the planning and conducting the procurements as planned and then managing stakeholder engagement. So actual execution of those work packages, execution of those deliverables happens from the team. Now as those deliverables happens, the delivered products are checked, monitored and controlled. You can see validate scope, control scope. Likewise for each knowledge areas, there is a control process which checks is that happened in execution as it was planned in planning process group. So then that is consolidated here for monitoring and controlling the project work in entirety, integrated. Similarly, performing integrated change control. Any deviations found in any of these checks which is being done in the control. Now that deviations needs to be corrected. So change will be raised. So request for change will be raised and that will be approved and controlled and necessary directions are given, approvals are given, and that moves towards execution for implementation. Once it is implemented, again validation happens. Once control checks if everything is okay, then it moves to the closure. Now activities in closure, a project or a phase involves just an activities of closure. The products or services or results which are created from the project does not go to closure until those are validated, checked, confirmed and signed off. Only then it goes to closing project or phase. And necessary formalities which are required to be completed before conclusion will happen in closing project or phase. This is how the project flows. Second point which you should keep in mind is a project manager is also called as an integrator. So main focus, the umbrella view, the bird's eye view project manager should have from project integration management. So this layer, project integration management, where project manager should have an umbrella view, total view about entire project, what is happening. So bigger picture, only when project manager has a bigger picture, project manager can come to the lower levels and see are they progressing the way it is supposed to. So then go back, look at the bird's eye view again and see is it going in the right direction, which is very essential. So further, I guess we will look at each of these process groups and what happens in each of the process groups. Similarly in knowledge areas. So let us move forward. Now project management process groups. So these process groups details the necessary requirement that need to be satisfied to ensure that project resources are used efficiently, and these represents the chronological phases that all projects go through during the project life cycle. So starting from initiating stage, it moves to planning. Once the plan is ready, then it moves to execution. As the execution happens, validation checks happens in monitoring and control, and as you find some deviation in monitoring and control, for correction of the deviation it comes back to execution, or if any necessary changes needs to be done in planning also while doing these corrections, then it may move to plan, then execution, and then monitoring and control. So this loop continues until the confirmation, yes, it is delivered as per the plan, and then it moves to closure. So that's how the project flows, and the project life cycle would be like that. So initiating process group. So initiating process group involves the processes, activities and skills needed to define the beginning of the project. As I mentioned earlier, in initiating process group, the creation of project charter happens and identification of the basic stakeholders, main stakeholders who are required to understand the further requirements in detail, who needs to be engaged. So those are identified. So setting up permits, authorization and initial work orders which should be in place and are important for effective and logical progress of the project and success across all project phases. So this clearly sets up the phases for the work to be completed, initializing teams and having a well thought out budget, which is very important. So this gives that view in totality, but it may not give you the full granular details, but it sets the directions, provides that insight. And also one important thing we should keep in mind is in initiation stage, appointment of project manager happens. The formal declaration of appointment of project manager happens and project charter will be formally handed over to project manager, and that formal declaration of assignment of project manager happens. From then project manager takes over, and first activity project manager does is identification of stakeholders. So next process group is planning process group, where we have around 24 processes to define the project scope, cost, schedule, quality, resource, risk, then procurement, stakeholder engagement. So comprehensive plan if it is waterfall approach, or basic skeleton plan which is required if it is agile approach. So it also clarifies the goals and expectations while putting in place the infrastructure to achieve the goals, keeping in timeline and budgetary constraints. The end-to-end view of the project is provided in planning. So this acts as a basic reference while the execution and monitoring and control happens. So based on the planning, the way it is done, execution will happen. Now next process group is executing process group, where the role of project manager is to direct and manage project work and manage the project knowledge, main activities, being an integrator of a project. Secondly, acquiring resources. It may be human resource or technology resource or any other resource required for the project. Then if it is human resource, there needs to be necessary training, development of the team, and then managing them. So a lot of team dynamics are involved. That needs to be handled. So this involves managing teams while handling time expectations and achieving benchmark goals. Team members delivers those results. Team members does all the activities and then creates that results. So team concerns needs to be addressed, because as you see the people together, the team members together, it is quite obvious conflict may occur. So conflict resolution should happen. The engagement with the team member should happen. So demonstration of work which is done by the project team, that needs to be monitored and controlled. Parallelly, which happens during the execution, monitoring and control is also happening. So project manager should look at both. So concerns needs to be addressed. Execution, is that happening as per the plan, has to be checked as part of monitoring and control while execution is happening. So bird's eye view in entirety, which says how the execution should happen, that needs to be directed and monitored. Whereas coming on ground, seeing is that happening the way it is required, that is also very essential. So next is monitoring and control process group. Now, as part of these process group, as I mentioned, while execution happens, it is very essential to check, validate and control. So this process group involves processing change orders. Any deviations being found, change requests are raised. And if that change request needs some modification or changes in planning, then it goes to planning. If no such planning requirements, simple change, then it straight go to execution, change get executed, and then again validation happens. So integrated change management, which is there in this particular process group. So this also focuses on addressing ongoing budget considerations, handling unexpected circumstances that could hamper the team's ability to meet the initial project expectations. So it goes on throughout the project lifecycle. So two process groups, if you closely observe, planning process groups and monitoring and control process groups are the process groups where you see processes in all the knowledge areas. Otherwise, if you see an initiating process group, it is only two processes. One is an integration management, other one is stakeholder management. If you look at execution, you don't see in scope, time, cost and risk management. Similarly, if you see closing process group, only one process, which is in initiating process group. So these are the only two process groups, planning process groups and monitoring and control process group, where you see the most of the processes. So next process group is closing process group. So closing process group, closing project or phase is the process what we have in this process group, which basically focuses on addressing the culmination of project management skills shown throughout the other interconnected processes that guided the projects. So all the aspects of process are closed and all the necessary paperwork is submitted. So it can lead to great reviews and word of mouth referrals in the future. So all the activities which need to be done for formal closure and conclusion, which is done in the closing process group. So this is about all the 5 process group defined in the PMP framework. So now let us move towards understanding each of the knowledge areas and the different processes within it. So how many processes in each of the knowledge areas aligning with the process group, we just saw in the table, but when we look at it, understand what are those exactly. So now knowledge areas are necessary for effective project management, which can take place during any of the explained process groups. So they are 10. So those are project integration management, project scope management, project schedule management, project cost management, project quality management, project resource management, project communication management, then project risk management, project procurement management, project stakeholder management. So many people ask me, when I train the people, they ask me, how do we remember all of this? So remembering process group will be easy because it's the flow which you can remember, then remembering the process group will be easier. But to remember the knowledge areas. So one thing you should keep in mind is initially when PMBOK were defined, mostly until 3rd edition or 4th edition, we used to focus on triple constraints. So when we say triple constraints, we used to tell scope, cost and time. Now later when as the best practices evolved, as the PMBOK evolved, so it did not limit on triple constraints. It actually said 6 constraints. What are the 6 constraints? Scope, cost, time, quality, resources and risk. So if you can able to remember the 6 constraints, so associated with each of these constraints, there is a knowledge area. Like you have project scope management, which is one of the area of constraints. Similarly, schedule management linked to time, cost management, quality management, resource management and risk management. So out of 10, easily you can able to remember 6. Further, there are 4 Now integration management by default integrates all the 9 knowledge areas. So remembering that may not be difficult. So to consolidate this, to conduct the project properly, you need stakeholders, you need to procure something, and you need to communicate. So other 3 knowledge areas remembrance should happen by linking to this. So firstly remember 6 constraints, that is scope, time, cost, quality, resource and risk. Then you have communication which needs to happen. To communicate there should be stakeholder, and also there should be supply which needs to happen to the project. So if you can link like this, 9 knowledge areas you can remember. So all these 9 knowledge areas you will integrate and manage in integration management. So in fact all the plans which are defined in rest of the 9 knowledge areas except integration management, so all those plans are called as subsidiary plans. So all these 9 subsidiary plans, that is scope management plan, schedule management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, resource management plan, communication management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, and stakeholder management plan. So all these 9 subsidiary plans are integrated together and consolidated in project management plan. So that happens in project integration management. So this we should keep in mind. So project integration management, what does it do? So project integration management basically includes plans to develop project charter, a document that sets up the project and assigns the project manager created during the initiation phase. So a project management plan is also created, which is a roadmap for the entire project to become a success. So the project plan, once approved by stakeholders and sponsor, is monitored and tracked through the change log. It also directs and manages the project work. This process is monitored, analyzed and reported to identify and control any changes or problems that could be encountered. So one thing we should keep in mind when we say project integration management, this is the only knowledge area where we see processes in all the process group. So we have process in initiating process group, we have processes in planning, we have process in execution process group, we have processes in monitoring and control process group, and also in closing process group. So project integration management is only knowledge area where it has a processes in all the process groups, which we don't see in any other knowledge area. Now next we'll look at the list of processes. Like develop project charter is in initiation process group. Develop project management plan, which consolidates all the 9 knowledge areas, is in planning process group. Direct and manage project work, manage project knowledge. These 2 processes are in executing process group. Monitor and control project work, perform integrated change control. These 2 processes are in monitoring and control process group. So close project or phase is in the closing process group. So now we will move to project scope management. So when we use the term scope, the term scope refers to the boundary within which we need to do something. So first thing we should keep in mind when we say project scope, 2 things. One is the scope of that product, service or results which we are creating, which comes out as a product or a service or result out of a project which comes out. What is getting created? So scoping that part of it. So other scope part of it, the processes, the tools, the resources, what is being used during the project so that deliverables happen. So 2 part of the scope we should look at. So project scope management involves those areas, deals with the work of the project, and involves plan scope management, an important part of project management plan. The collection of requirements of the product or service also takes place in this process group, and also project scope management knowledge area deals with work of the project, which involves plan scope management, an important part of the project management plan. So the collection of requirements of the product or service also takes place in this stage. The scope of project is also defined in the scope statement. This is expected to undergo change over the course of project. The scope is validated during the project, ensuring that the deliverables are approved by sponsors or stakeholders. So as I mentioned earlier, it involves the scope of the results, what is being created, and also scope of those processes, resources, tools which are used during the project. So processes in project scope management knowledge area. So plan scope management, which is in planning process group, collect requirements, define scope, create WBS. Even these 3 processes are in planning process group. In total, 4 processes in planning process group. Whereas validate scope and control scope, these 2 processes are in monitoring and control process group. So when you say plan scope management, it's about defining how to collect the requirements, how to manage those, entire scope management planning. And requirements management plan also has to be defined. Then requirements are collected from the stakeholders who are being identified, and then scope will be defined. Now, very important thing here is about work breakdown structure. So we have a product or a service or a result which we are working on to create as a result of the project. So how will you understand all the parts of it? That needs breaking down that particular product or services or results which we are going to create into multiple pieces in a structure which would look like a tree, so that you will get a necessary insight towards what is being delivered. So firstly, product breakdown structure is made, and for each of the layers of this product breakdown structure, you will be assigning an activities, assigning resources, effort estimation, cost estimation, sequencing those. All this will be done later. Basic thing needed is work breakdown structure for that. So to create WBS, the technique called decomposition is used, and this approach is top-down approach. Next, validate scope and control scope. As WBS provides the structure of various things which needs to be delivered, referring to that, as the execution happens, validation should happen, whether it is delivered accordingly or not. And is that scope management is being done according to the plan. Control scope will be checking that. So next is the project schedule management. When we say schedule, it's quite obvious for us to understand when what needs to be done. So what needs to be done is already told in scope, and when are you going to do that? For that you need to have a specific schedule, the timeline. So the project will have various different activities, tasks, which is assigned to the particular WBS element. So these activities will have a specific start date, end date, and this will have a specific output which is coming out as part of those actions which happens. So the project is divided into tasks, each with their own start dates and deadlines and budgets. So these are revised as the project moves forward, depending on how the project is progressing. A schedule for the project and determining who is responsible for that. So helps us to understand which resource is required at what point in time. Similarly, the cash flow requirement can also be understood by having a defined schedule. So the tasks are placed in a sensible order, and the dependencies between each of them are noted. Once sequenced, the resources required for the tasks are estimated and assigned. The time required for each of these tasks are also determined. Now when we say this, we are required to understand and visualize while doing a project, the WBS structure is defined, and in what sequence each of these elements are delivered, and what timeline, start time, end time, and how each of these are connected to other WBS element, in what sequence, what activities required, what resource required, what effort required, what competency skill required. So all these are put in. So since we schedule and sequence it, we know when is that required. So this requires working with other knowledge area very closely. When I say WBS element, it's quite obvious, it comes from scope management. When I say allocation of resources, obviously it has to work with resource management to create a resource calendars. If I say cost management, to understand the flow, money flow, cash flow. So budget should be there for the project. So cash flow, when what amount is required. To understand that, cost is linked to schedule. So all these knowledge areas should work very closely with coordinating with each other, interfacing with each other. So project schedule management also uses a very important technique called network analysis technique, where we speak about critical path, then forward pass, backward pass, then identification of floats. So when I say critical path refers to the longest path in the established network diagram of a project, and that will be the minimum time required for project to complete. So this critical path needs to be closely monitored as the execution of the project happens, because any delay in this critical path will delay the project itself. So that's about some summary about schedule management. Now let us look at the processes which are involved in schedule management. So plan schedule management, define activities, sequence activities, estimate activity durations, develop schedule. So all these 5 processes are in planning process group. So schedule management, how it has to be done, needs to be clearly planned as part of plan schedule management. Then when to define activities, it is quite obvious. We need to know what needs to be delivered. So WBS element helps us. When the scope baseline is provided as an input here, so taking that, activities are defined. Then the sequencing happens. Then when we say estimate activity durations, so we speak about two terms like effort and duration. If I want to deliver something, let me assume to deliver X for a person, it requires 1 day, or for a person, it requires 10 days, if we say. So to create that working piece of a product, it takes 10 man days, we will say. That is an effort. Now, if I have 100 pieces of such needs to be created, how many man days I need? So 10 into 100 piece, 10 days into 100 piece, so 1000 man days. Now, how many resources I have? I may have around 25 resources. Now 1000 divided by 25, it will be around, I guess, 400 man days. No, I think 1000 divided by it's about 40. So 40 man days of effort means that is duration, whereas effort is 1000 man days. 40 days will become duration. So likewise, looking at how many resources we have, how many, what is that effort is actually required, is involved, and then what is the duration within which we need to complete it. Either you look at how many resources I have, based on that I will look at the duration, or I will look at the target date. Mainly target date is given by customers, as you discuss, when the project needs to be completed. Accordingly, you may require to acquire the resources. So this itself is showing us these knowledge areas now work very closely. Now, without scope, you cannot define activities. Now, without understanding the activities, you don't know what is the effort. So now once you understood the effort, you know what resource, what competency, when. So you need to work with resource management. So to have those resources onboarded or acquired, you need to have money, cost. So what cost it takes. So likewise, it goes one by one elaborating. That's why you see 24 processes in the planning process group distributed across all the 10 knowledge areas. So this is about schedule management. Now I look at the cost management, project cost management. So when we say cost, it is quite obvious. It's all about money. What money? The expenditure, the outgoing money. So project incurs cost. If any individuals, I keep getting these questions in a lot of trainings. So is checking the revenues, the invoice raising and collection of payment, is that a job of a project manager? Now when we say the project management and look at it as a project management activities, now it's all about delivering the results of the project. So when we say I need to collect invoices and to submit invoices, collect payments, when you say that, so that doesn't mean it is part of a project management role. No. Now, if in your organization, if you have a designation of project manager or some manager or something, and invoice submission and collection of payment is also part of your job description, you have to do. You don't have any choice. So designation is totally different when compared with the meaning of the role called project manager. So any other things which are associated with your designation in the organization, it may be project manager also, designation possible. Depending on what job description, what job activities are associated with it, accordingly you need to do. But when you do a project management activity in specific, when you involve in the project, so all these aspects what we are defining, that needs to be taken care 100%. Along with it, raising an invoice, collection of payment, or coordinating with some other department to find out new opportunities in the existing customer, those are all additional things which are given to you as an individual with that designation to justify many things. So as a professionals, I have a position in organization with some designations, and there is a CTC salary which is given, and that needs to be justified. To justify that, various different roles are attached to you for your designation. So that you need to look up to. Accordingly, you need to deal with. Now let us come back to project cost management. So it's about expending money, what we're speaking about, which basically focuses on estimating and allocation of budget to the project. That is first thing. One needs to estimate, approximate what cost it takes for a project. Now, what are those cost components? So where is that cost incurred? So cost is incurred to the resources acquired. Cost is incurred to the tools. Cost is incurred in all that activity what we do. Right? So everywhere, the one we create a result for raw material what you acquire, the people, the technology resource what you acquire, the facility what you have. So all this involves money, the cost, expenditure. So approximation of the cost needs to be done, what it takes to complete this project, and confirm, budget it. So this involves project budgeting. So good estimation tools need to make sure that the funds are within the need of the project and stakeholder sponsors are kept informed. So estimation and budgeting cannot happen in isolation. Project manager cannot do alone. That requires to involve the experts, the domain experts, who can determine how the budget can be established, how it can change, how it can be controlled, what are the regulators needs to be kept in mind. So it considers all those processes required to do that. All the tasks which are involved like cost and combining them would determine project budget. So firstly approximation would happen. Based on that approximation, then the approximation of that will be submitted. Then the budget is confirmed after allocation. So this needs to be monitored and controlled throughout the project lifecycle. So initially I also mentioned earlier about triple constraints, scope, time and cost. So it is very important to monitor these three critically. So for that there is a technique which is used, which is very popular, earned value management, which speaks about or provides you the insight towards how the project is progressing in terms of scope, time and cost, which are basically very important ones. Then comes rest of the things, quality, resource, risk, which complements to this, right? So project cost management involves 4 processes, that is plan cost management, estimate cost, determine budget, which are part of planning process group, and control cost is part of monitoring and control process group. Now next knowledge area is project quality management. So when we say quality, it's all about ensuring that grades are set, requirements are clearly defined, and how are you going to ensure that inherent characteristics what are defined are accomplished. So you need to have a quality management approach, quality management plan in place. Now what quality management I should follow? There are a lot of standards, lot of best practices. So that is based on the project environment, in which organization are you doing. In any given organization there will be quality management practices which are followed, an approach that may require to get reflected in the projects which is being done in that environment. Or if project has a specific requirement, that specific quality management standard or practice needs to be followed, then that needs to be defined. Accordingly, the quality management should happen. So quality management is a part of entire project management plan, which speaks about quality specifications, products or service, the artifacts which are used as part of the project. So when we say quality management approach, we speak about many terms like acceptance criteria, quality criteria, customer quality expectations, then quality assurance, quality control. So all these needs to be kept in mind and brought in place. And this in execution, if you look at, there is a process called manage quality. When we looked at scope, schedule and cost, there was no processes defined in execution. But since the accountability of ensuring quality is with project manager, there is a process. Now remember, all these 49 processes defined in PMP are project management processes. These are not the processes which are for execution. So these are all project management processes. If any team member is configuring something, creating something, delivering something, none of those activities are defined as part of these processes. As plan, when you make a clear plan, like when I said create WBS, where you have the elements which needs to be delivered are defined. When you're putting an activities into it, adding activities into it, that anyway you have a domain expert to do it. Accordingly, execution happens by team members. But as a project manager, you are not involved in that in entirety. In execution, I'm saying. So project quality management will have the processes like plan quality management, manage quality and control quality. So plan quality management is part of planning process group. Manage quality is part of executing process group, whereas control quality is part of monitoring and controlling process group. So the next knowledge area to look at is project resource management. So when we say resource, by default we think about human resources. So that's how the knowledge area was in the 5th edition. So it was called as Project Human Resource Management. But as the discussions happened, as the realization happened, it is not about just human resource, many resources involves, technology resources, facility resources. So the renaming of that knowledge area happened in 6th edition as Project Resource Management. So Project Resource Management focuses on ensuring identification of those roles, identification of those resources, having a plan in place so that resources can be managed better. So predominantly when we say resource, it's quite obvious we think about human resources. So which is very, very unpredictable kind of resource. Whereas when it comes to technology resource, it is predictable. The nature, the behavior, the configuration, everything is predictable. But only those human resource are the one which requires a special treatment, a special approach to engage with them. So this knowledge area helps to identify roles within the project team as per the project management team structure defined. So there should be project management team structure defined. And what needs to be delivered from which are the roles, which also include how they fit into overall structure of the project. So these team members or resources need to be acquired. If it is human resources, those needs to be educated, an induction needs to be done about the project, and they needs to become fit into the project. So when I say people, it's quite obvious conflict occurs, various different preferences they come across with. They have their own experience backgrounds and dynamics associated with them. So close monitoring is required, mentoring is required, demonstration of leadership skills are required. So generally we speak about three main ways of demonstrating leadership, which involves authoritarian leadership, then laissez-faire leadership, and participative leadership. So authoritarian is also called as autocratic, which means the project manager will become hold that authority, power. With that power, the project manager demonstrates this is how it should be, makes the decision. So such power demonstration may be required when something needs to be influenced strongly and direction needs to be set and decisions needs to be made. But when it comes to participative leadership, when some problems needs to be resolved, when people's involvement is required, that needs to be encouraged. That is very essential. Reviewing or creating solutions, that approach, leadership style is required. But when it comes to laissez-faire, delegative approach, so where there are specific domain experts who will do it, so assign to them and then monitor, review with them. That is delegative approach. So these three leadership styles has to be demonstrated effectively while doing project resource management. So team will have their own dynamics, so that needs to be understood and accordingly dealt with. So this knowledge area has around 6 processes, that is plan resource management, estimate activity resources, acquire resources, develop team, manage team, and control resources. So plan resource management and estimate activity resources are part of planning process group. Acquire resources, develop team, and manage team are part of executing process group, whereas control resource is part of monitoring and control process group. So next knowledge area we are going to look at is project communication management. So when we say project communication, firstly we need to understand what is this communication is all about. So communication is used to convey something to someone. So there should be two parties, the communicator and the one who receives it, means sender and receiver. So very important here is when sender sends certain message, at the receiver's end, how it is received. Is the meaning what is actually perceived by a receiver is same as what is meant by the communicator, means sender. So this will become a big gap. If what I told versus what someone understood, if there is a gap, then the communication is not effective. So it is very essential to understand this dynamics. Communication should be very effective, and based on that communication there is always a resultant action. So always communication will have two parties minimum, one is sender and receiver. And in the receiver's perspective, one needs to understand who would be the receiver generally. When I say project manager communicates with sponsor, project manager communicates with team members, project manager communicates with customers, project manager communicates with other functions within organization, suppliers who are external to the organization. Now each of these communications will have a specific objective and intention. So project manager should understand that. And what sorts of vocabularies, jargons which needs to be used while communicating